Typically, when we see a major market sell-off, almost everyone immediately thinks bearish. But typically at these times, when we see major swings in the market and when we start to see fear bleeding around this entire space, I become extremely bullish. And that's why right now, I really do think that XRP is more bullish now than when we were trading at $3 plus. The reason for this being is because we just swept a ton of liquidity. We also hit a massive demand zone that I was talking about, before this move even happened. And if you do go back and watch some of those videos, I was talking about $2.30 to about $2.60 being hit on XRP and being a main focus point because, again, what we wanted to see is a major swing to the downside, hit a demand zone, build out a floor, and then have continuation from that point on. This is very similar to previous price action as well before the biggest swings in the market, especially regarding XRP. Now, when we go over a few things, we also have to think about, are we bottomed out? Is this market about to, go crazy? Is this setting the stage for a parabolic push to the upside again? And in my opinion, I do believe that this recent move did just that. Because again, currently, when we're looking at this space, fear and greed is back down into the fearful levels. The average crypto RSI around altcoins is oversold. And this recent move caused a ton of panic. A lot of people were terrified of what happens next. I see a lot of people saying bear market, we're done. There's no alt season. It was only about Bitcoin this season with ETFs and all this nonsense. But again, I really do think that this environment now is perfect for a parabolic Q4 run-up. Now, I want to talk about a few things. Right off the rip, I want to talk about the price chart because, again, when we think about some of those key levels to hit on XRP, we just swept all of that liquidity. Here's a post from Crypto Insight UK. We have XRP daily liquidity. All downside liquidity has been taken. And yes, in one single daily candle, we just swept all of the downside liquidity. All of the demand is now gone in the downside. The next thing to swing to the upside is the focus because that's where all the liquidity stands. So we are looking at the swing to the upside. And a lot of that liquidity is around like the mid $3 region to $4 plus. So now we took the liquidity from the downside. Now we're looking at the upside. So I do think going forward, if we can continue to build out this floor, and if we focus on Bitcoin having that recovery, then yes, XRP is about to have a violent swing to the upside, and we should see a parabolic recovery in this quarter. Now, on top of that, I did see a great post come up on my timeline earlier today. This is from Ether Nacional, and we have XRP, same scenario, new cycle. XRP cyclical structure is showing a striking similarity once again. After the major rally in 2017, the price was rejected from the 2013 all-time high level and then retested the 2014 all-time high level, which had previously acted as resistance. After accumulating strength in this area, it began its parabolic run. Today, the picture is almost identical. After the strong surge in 2024, the price was rejected at the 2017 all-time high level and retested the 2021 all-time high level, which had previously acted as resistance. Now, the power accumulation phase is ongoing in this region following this consolidation. The next parabolic run will be inevitable. Patience is the most valuable strategy in this cycle. And if we're looking at the charts here side by side, and let me just open this up in a new tab just so that you guys can see it. If we're looking back at the 2017-2018 rally, yes, we did have a major sell-off. This was from roughly about 5.5 cents, almost like 6 cents. And then we dropped back down into like the 2 to 3 cent region. That was all the demand. Now, if we're looking at our, current price action structure, we just hit around like the 2018 all-time high resistance. We sold off into the demand zone from the 2021 all-time high, very similar to the 2014 all-time high. And now we're watching to see if we get that big reaction on this chart yet again. Now, I know that immediately right off the rip, people will be saying, all right, well, that's it, ready for like $40 to $50+ on XRP. No, listen, I do think that we need to be aware that diminished returns is 100% a thing, especially in terms of like 4-year cycle or, just typical crypto cycles. So I'm looking at anywhere between roughly, $7 to $10 initially. And then after that, we could look at like the high $15 to $20 region. But still, before we get a little bit ahead of ourselves, we still need to see a little bit more work done on the price chart. That way we could get that signal that, yes, XRP is about to have that big recovery. And right now, when it comes to XRP, lower time frame wise on the 4-hour, for an example, we are currently trading at about roughly almost $2.40. We are in that $2.30 to like $2.60 region that I outlined for, weeks on end. And if we're thinking about XRP right now on the 4-hour structure, we are printing bullish divergence. And what I mean by that is essentially we have this bearish structure where we are forming lower lows. However, RSI down here is forming higher lows. So we should be typically seeing bullish price action form when that does happen. It takes a little bit of time, but we should start to break back to the upside off of the bottom here. And yes, I do believe that XRP has essentially bottomed, especially with this extremely disgusting wick to the downside. I mean, this was a crazy price move, all in a single 4-hour candle, a 49% drop. I mean, you got to think about it like this, right? This full drop here from the top was 62%. We're talking about from the high back in July. That's a crazy price move on this chart. And by the way, on the 4-hour, this is the most oversold XRP has been since going all the way back here in 2024. So again, if we're thinking about XRP right now, I do think that the structure here is starting to form a bullish pattern, and we should start to see a big break on this chart very soon. Now, what are the major catalysts on XRP to support this big move? Well, let's start off with Ripple Swell. We know that Ripple Swell is upcoming. On November 3rd, we will see this officially take place. Do I think that we have to wait until November 3rd for the price chart to break back to the upside? Absolutely not. But this is one big catalyst to support price action. There's going to be a lot of great discussions at this event. There's going to be a lot of great speakers as well. When we look at the list of speakers here, you have NASDAQ, you also have BNY, Franklin Templeton, Citi. I mean, there's a crazy amount of names that will be at this event having some very solid conversations. And I really do think that all of these types of events, Ripple Swell or even Stellar with Meridian, we typically see major announcements made at these events or even around these events. So I do expect leading into November, we will most likely see some pretty big updates from Ripple regarding partnership announcements, expansions, things like that. So I definitely think that this is going to be a huge catalyst for XRP and for the entire ecosystem around XRP. And then also ETF filings, right? So leading into November, we have a ton of deadlines coming up for major ETF filings. And then also in November, we have the Franklin Templeton decision as well. So we have a very significant amount of decisions to be made on these ETFs, which also really kind of aligns perfectly with Ripple Swell and Q4 being a major. I would argue that Q4 is definitely a focus in terms of price action now, because again, the beginning of Q4, we get this massive price swing to the downside, right around the same exact time that we start to see altcoin ETFs heating up. I mean, it kind of aligns perfectly with that big wipeout. Everyone gets shaken out. All of a sudden, altcoins start to have a violent move to the upside and have that big recovery. And then all of a sudden, all that money that's sidelined, all of a sudden is flowing back in. FOMOing in, pushing the price action even higher. It's the typical price action that we see around altcoins. Go back to 2020 into 2021, you saw the same thing. Altcoins got wiped out. People got shaken out. All of a sudden, altcoins returned in a huge way, and that sideline money started to FOMO back in. 2017, 2018, same exact story. So again, this time around, the environment is almost identical, but we just have so many more catalysts here with so much more price potential. And then also, outside of these ETFs, we just got a big update regarding more XRP ETFs. Nate Grolschi said, another batch of S1 amendments rolling in on spot XRP ETFs. Bitwise, Franklin, 21 shares, WisdomTree, Grayscale, and Canary. Several include ticker symbols. Getting close. So yeah, it seems as though XRP ETFs right now, they're just a ticking time bomb waiting to explode with price action to the upside. So we're watching these ETFs extremely close at this point because, again, it's not just a catalyst for XRP, it's also a catalyst for the altcoin market, which could lead into, and do we have to even say it, alt season. Yeah, because alt season right now at this point, it kind of seems like a fairy tale. It's never going to happen, but that's exactly what we want when it comes to something as big as alt season. And then on top of these ETFs, because they're so close to getting approved fully, in my opinion, we think about those big companies, right? From XRP Crow, we have XRP is making big moves. Companies are lining up to hold over $1 billion in their treasuries. Corporate adoption is accelerating. The XRP era has officially begun. And yeah, there is a ton of companies looking into XRP, especially regarding treasuries. Now, are some of these companies hyping up XRP just to get some buyers of their stock? Sure, you could argue that. However, I also think that this is a big signal of, XRP being the mature asset in the space and these companies realizing the value of it, especially long term. So, I do think that there's kind of a mix of both. But it's very easy to argue the fact that XRP has made significant strides over the last couple of years, and it is one of the most legitimate crypto assets in this space. And also, it's one of the most highly sought after assets in the space as well, from institutional players, enterprise players, and again, when it comes to companies planning their treasuries, I would be looking into XRP as well. And then outside of that, I did see a post regarding all of the XRP upcoming catalysts. This is from XRP for Freedom. Now, this first one is incorrect. The Fed rate cut decision is not on the 15th. It is on the 29th. We have it here, October 29th, a 98.3% chance of a rate cut, 17 days at this moment. I think by the time that this video goes live, it should be closer to 16. However, looking at this, we have spot XRP ETF, October 18th to the 25th, all of those decisions. Ripple Bank license, a lot of people are expecting the same time frame, almost like the 28th to the 30th. This is kind of unknown. We are kind of speculating on this. Beyond that, Clarity Senate markup late October, Clarity floor vote early November, depending on if the U.S. government reopens. Swell Conference, November 4th. We do know it is, let's go back to the overview real quick, November 4th through the 5th. Some of the earlier, receptions and things like that start on November 3rd, but the actual event does start on the 4th. Going back though, next up, ISO 20022, we also have the go live for November 22nd. And yes, we do see ISO 20022 really getting pushed forward around the end of November, but all of these are great catalysts. All of them are great things to look forward to, which could definitely support price action. Are these all going to happen at the same exact time? Or are all of these going to stay true to their dates? Not exactly, outside of like a few, like Ripple Swell, and even, for example, the Fed rate cut decision. But all of this can definitely, like I said, support price action at a time where the price chart is looking as though it's starting to bottom out. I do think that XRP is going to have a strong recovery here. There's already been a lot of great altcoins recovering on the daily time frame, especially in the top 500. I mean, some of these are going crazy off of their lows. So this is a very good sign of altcoins really starting to get a lot more volume pushed into them, and buyers are stepping in to buy up the lows. And trust me, if you think that XRP didn't have any buyers stepping in, well, XRP did have one of the largest recoveries in the space off of those lows. In fact, it was extremely challenging to buy XRP because of the demand on some of those exchanges. Obviously, it wasn't just based around XRP, other altcoins too, but XRP was definitely extremely sought after during that dip. But beyond that, this is exactly why we need to prepare for this next big move, because I do expect, after having such a significant sell-off the way that we did, we should have a violent recovery, very similar to all of the recent major events that have happened over time that kind of mark the bottoms, COVID, FTX, things like that. I do think that this is just another one of those significant events that caused a massive, liquidation cascade, and this is going to lead into the market bouncing back in a big way. And overshadowing this low. Because if we zoom out, I mean, COVID doesn't really look like much on this chart because, again, we have gone up so much in terms of price action. I do think that this time around, it's basically the same story. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video.